During my son's wedding, the bride suddenly hissed at me, "Get out of here and don't come back. You're not welcome here." I just smiled and said, "Okay, but I'm not leaving alone." Her smug smile faded when she saw who was coming with me. She lost control. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I was sketching drainage patterns for the southeast corner when the doorbell rang. March afternoons in Rosebridge usually meant peace. Retired life finally offering what 40 years of deadlines never did. Time to think. Time to plan gardens instead of buildings. The bell rang again, insistent. Malik stood on my porch, grinning like he'd won the lottery. A woman I'd never seen before stood beside him, her hand resting on his arm with practiced ease. "Dad, we're engaged." My son's words tumbled out before I could ask them inside. "I wanted you to meet her right away." The right away struck me first. No phone call, no gradual introduction. Just this sudden presentation, like showing off a car he'd bought on impulse. "Come in," I managed, stepping aside. "This is unexpected." I know. Malik practically vibrated with nervous energy as they entered. "But when you know, right?" The woman extended her hand. "Ariana Cole. I've heard so much about you, Mr. Gaines." Malik says, "You designed half the notable buildings in Rosebridge." Her grip was firm, confident, manicure expensive. French tips recent. "Notable is generous," I replied. "Functional is accurate. Please call me Harold." She smiled and immediately began cataloging my entryway. Her eyes swept across the original crown molding, paused on the walnut banister, calculated dimensions with what looked like professional assessment. "This craftsmanship is extraordinary. You don't see this quality anymore." "Built in 1923, I said, watching her absorb the information like someone appraising inventory. We moved to the living room. I offered coffee, which they accepted. As I prepared it in the kitchen, I could hear Ariana asking Malik about square footage, property lines, neighborhood development patterns. Her voice carried that smooth professionalism I recognized from years of contractor meetings. People who measured value before appreciating beauty. So I said, returning with the tray, "Tell me how you two met." Malik launched into the story with too much enthusiasm. Networking event, industry connection. She was consulting for a luxury real estate firm. He was presenting on sustainable development. Their eyes met across the conference hall. "Very cinematic," Ariana supplemented with precise details. "I work with high net worth clients, primarily property portfolios, investment strategies, estate transitions." She said high net worth 3 times in 5 minutes. When I met Malik, his passion for ethical development impressed me. "So many people in our industry just chase profit. What about your family?" I asked. "Where are they?" She deflected smoothly. "Bayhaven originally, but we weren't close. I prefer looking forward rather than back." "Malik has told me wonderful stories about you, though. Retired architect, widower, built this beautiful home. He clearly got his talent from you." The compliment felt rehearsed. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. "Actually," Malik said, pulling papers from his messenger bag, "Ariana suggested something I think shows real maturity. A prenuptial agreement for transparency and mutual protection." He handed me the document, like it was proof of her virtue. I put on my reading glasses slowly, buying time to process this development. The contract was thick, 20 pages of legal language. "This is thorough," I said. "My attorney drafted it," Ariana explained. "I believe in protecting both parties. Marriage is a partnership, but smart partnerships have clear terms. Don't you agree, Harold?" I flipped through the pages. Clause 7. All family assets acquired during marriage subject to equal division. Family assets, not marital assets, family. Clause 12. Inheritance received during marriage becomes marital property after 1 year. Has Malik had independent legal review? I asked. "Dad, it's fair." "Ariana wouldn't, I'm sure," I interrupted gently. "Just standard practice, son. Any major contract deserves 2 perspectives." Malik looked wounded. Ariana touched his arm, redirecting his attention with subtle pressure. "Would you like to see the rest of the house?" She asked me. I'm fascinated by this period's architecture. We toured the rooms. She photographed crown molding supposedly for inspiration, but her angles captured more than decorative details. In the master bedroom, she paused by the window overlooking the garden. "Such a large house for one person," she observed. "Have you considered what happens to it eventually?" The question landed with calculated weight. "Eventually is a long way off," I replied. "Of course," she smiled. "I only meant estate planning is crucial. Malik mentioned you haven't updated your will recently. Did he?" My tone cooled. "That's a private matter between father and son." She backtracked with professional grace. "Family should discuss these things openly. Prevents misunderstandings later." I prefer preventing misunderstandings now. Back downstairs, Malik checked his watch. "We should go. Reservation at 6 o'clock. At the door, Ariana hugged me with calculated warmth. "I'll take good care of him," she whispered against my shoulder. "And I'm so glad we'll be family." The emphasis on family sounded possessive. After they drove away, I stood in the doorway, holding the prenup. Small details accumulated in my mind, like structural defects during inspection. The diamond bracelet she wore, 3 carats minimum, worth more than 6 months of consultant salary. Designer handbag, knowledge of inheritance law, exceeding casual interest, questions about my will before questions about my favorite foods or hobbies. I walked to my study, spread the contract across my desk, and began making notes, circled clause 12, underlined clause 7. In the margin, I wrote one word, "why." The weeks after their visit crawled by with suffocating normally. Malik called regularly, each conversation steering toward wedding plans, venues, guest lists, color schemes. I responded with appropriate enthusiasm, asked appropriate questions, played the role of supportive father. The prenuptial contract sat in my study drawer. Twice Malik asked if I'd reviewed it thoroughly. Twice I deflected, still reading through the details. Truth was, I'd read it 17 times. Each reading revealed new concerns buried in legal language. But concerns weren't evidence. They were only instincts, and instincts don't convince sons blinded by infatuation. Mid-April arrived with unusual warmth. My former colleague, Evan Brooks, called about meeting for lunch downtown. He wanted advice on retirement planning, transitioning from active practice to consulting work. I agreed. The restaurant he chose, Riverbend Hall, occupied a renovated warehouse in the Harbor Quarter. I arrived 15 minutes early, my habit from decades of client meetings. The hostess seated me at a table near the window. Good natural light. I reviewed the menu, wondering if Evan would be late as usual, when movement across the restaurant caught my attention. I looked up and went completely still. Ariana sat at a corner table, partially obscured by a decorative column. A man in an expensive suit sat across from her. Early 40s, dark hair, confident posture. Their body language screamed intimacy. She leaned close, her hand covering his on the table. His thumb stroked her wrist with familiar ease. My first instinct was to stand, march over, demand an explanation. My hand was halfway to pushing back my chair when 40 years of architectural discipline overrode emotion. Confront her now with what? Having lunch with someone? She'd have an explanation ready. Business meeting, old friend. Innocent coincidence. I needed more than a single observation. I needed pattern. I signaled the waiter. Could I move to that table instead? I gestured toward a spot where a potted plant would provide partial concealment, better lighting for my work papers. From my new position, I had a clear sight line. They couldn't detect. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check messages, and activated the camera. Through the foliage, I photographed them. For 20 minutes, I watched with the attention to detail I'd once applied to blueprint reviews, cataloged every gesture, her fingers tracing his forearm, his hand briefly touching her cheek, the way they shared a dessert with a single fork, laughing at some private joke. When the waiter brought their check, the man paid without hesitation. Expensive bottle of wine, multiple courses visible on the bill, even from my distance. They were comfortable together, practiced. This wasn't a first date or a second meeting. This was an established relationship. When they prepared to leave, she kissed his cheek and lingered there, her lips near his ear. He whispered something that made her laugh. Not the polite laugh she'd used in my living room, but something genuine and unguarded. They exited separately, professional caution, suggesting they understood the need to hide. I waited 5 full minutes, paid my own bill quickly with cash, and followed to the parking area. The man climbed into a black Mercedes sedan. I photographed it, capturing the license plate clearly. Evan Brooks arrived 20 minutes late with profuse apologies about traffic. I barely registered our lunch conversation. My mind churned through implications, possibilities, strategies. After we finished, I drove directly to the office of Darius Holt, a journalist I'd known for 20 years through Chamber of Commerce networking. "Darius, I need a favor," I said. "A discreet one." He looked up from his computer. Discreet usually means trouble. Information only. License plate to name. He studied my expression. Legal trouble. Family trouble. I need to know who someone is before making decisions. Darius leaned back in his chair. "Remember when I needed an architect's assessment before buying that house on Archer? You found those foundation issues. Probably saved me $50,000. I remember. Consider us even." He took the plate number I'd written down. 30 minutes and 2 phone calls later, he had the information. Andre Vale, real estate agent at Summit Estates Group. Specializes in luxury estates. Over $2 million. I searched for Andre online while still in Darius's office. Found his professional profile with photograph. Same man from the restaurant. Match confirmed. Now I needed depth. I researched Rosebridge private investigators that evening. Selected Calvin Rhodes based on his specialty, financial fraud and infidelity cases. His office occupied a modest suite downtown. Rhodes himself was unremarkable. Mid-40s, average build, forgettable face, perfect for surveillance work. I explained the situation concisely. My son's fiancée, suspicious prenuptial agreement, intimate lunch with another man. I need her background investigated, particularly romantic history and financial patterns. Rhodes quoted his rates without emotion, $150 per hour, plus expenses. "Whatever it takes," I said. "I want a comprehensive report." He asked one question. "If I find what you're afraid I'll find, what will you do?" I met his eyes steadily. "Protect my son." He nodded and took my retainer check. 2 weeks, I'll be thorough. Those 2 weeks stretched like 2 months. I maintained normal facade with Malik. Weekly dinners resumed. Wedding planning discussions continued. Ariana joined twice, performing her role perfectly. Affectionate to Malik, respectful to me, asking my opinion on ceremony details. Each time I smiled, offered suggestions, watched her with new understanding. She was good, really good. If I hadn't seen her with Andre, I might believe the performance myself. But I had seen, and now I was waiting for proof. Rhodes called on May 2nd. "Report's ready. You'll want privacy when you read it." We met at his office. The folder he handed over was thick, at least 60 pages. "Took some digging," Rhodes said, "but the pattern's clear. She's done this before, twice." I opened the folder and began reading. Marriage certificate from 2019. Ariana Cole to James Whitfield, Rosebridge businessman. Divorce filing from 2021. Settlement $180,000 plus vehicle. Marriage certificate from 2022. Ariana Cole to Richard Brennan, Bayhaven entrepreneur. Divorce filing from 23. Settlement $225,000 plus property transfer. Photographic surveillance from the past 2 weeks showed Ariana meeting Andre Vale 6 times. Hotel receipts. Restaurant bills. They'd been involved at least 8 months, longer than she'd been dating Malik. Rhodes's handwritten note on the final page. "She's getting better at this." I closed the folder and sat in silence, absorbing the complete picture. My son wasn't in love. He was a mark, a target, a transaction she'd been planning since before they'd met. "Recommendation?" Rhodes asked. "Show him this today." "Not yet," I said slowly. "If I approach this wrong, she'll convince him I'm paranoid. I need better timing. Complete strategy. Don't wait too long. Wedding's what, for months away?" I stood, folder in hand. "I won't let it happen. Trust me on that." I left Rhodes's office, carrying a folder that weighed nothing and everything. Downtown Rosebridge traffic blurred past my windshield during the drive home. My mind wasn't processing stoplights or lane changes. It operated on autopilot, while conscious thought circled a single question: how to stop this without destroying my relationship with Malik in the process. At home, I spread Rhodes's report across the dining table. Marriage certificates, divorce decrees, financial settlements, photographic surveillance. Each document another nail in Ariana's coffin, but hammering those nails required precision. Approach Malik too early. She'd convince him I was jealous, controlling, unable to release him to independent life. Wait too long. Legal protections would activate. Timing was everything. I needed expert guidance, not an investigator's facts, but a lawyer's strategy. I needed expert guidance, not an investigator's facts, but a lawyer's strategy. The next morning, I researched family law attorneys in Rosebridge, selecting Denise Carter after reading her 20-plus years, specializing in prenuptial disputes and fraud cases. Her office occupied a renovated Victorian on Alderhill. I called at 9 sharp, explained briefly that I needed consultation regarding a fraudulent prenuptial agreement. She had an opening at 11. Carter herself was a sharp-featured woman in her 50s, with a direct manner that suggested no tolerance for wasted time. I presented the situation concisely, showed her Rhodes's report. She studied the documents with professional intensity, occasionally making notes in precise handwriting. After 20 minutes, she looked up. Our state's Uniform Premarital Agreement Act allows voiding contracts obtained through fraud, duress, or failure to disclose, she said. Your challenge is proving fraudulent intent existed before contract signing. She explained the burden of proof, pattern of behavior, financial motivation, concealment of material facts. The previous marriages helped establish a pattern. Ariana's relationship with this Andre person demonstrated ongoing deception, but we would need testimony from prior husbands, victims willing to state she employed identical tactics. Carter quoted her retainer fee, $5,000 for comprehensive case preparation. I wrote the check immediately. Document everything from this point forward, she advised. Record conversations if your state's one-party consent law allows. It does if you're a participant. Get your son's permission to record family discussions about wedding planning. Don't tell him why yet. I left with a legal roadmap. That afternoon, I returned to Rhodes's office. I need you to find her previous husbands, I said. Both of them. I need to know if they'll talk, if they'll testify if necessary. Rhodes pulled out notes from his report. James Whitfield, first husband, lives in Northport. Tech consultant, divorced her 3 years ago. Second husband, Richard Brennan, moved to Silver Bay after their divorce 2 years back. He's harder to locate, changed jobs, possibly changed apartments to escape association with the divorce. I authorized additional investigation expenses without hesitation, whatever it costs. These men are key to establishing pattern. My attorney says their testimony could void the prenuptial contract entirely. Rhodes accepted the assignment with a warning. Some divorce victims don't want to relive trauma. They might refuse involvement. Then I'll convince them, I said. They deserve to know she's doing it again. That evening, Malik called about weekend brunch with Ariana. She wanted to bond more with Dad before the wedding. I seized the opportunity. Son, I've been thinking. This is a significant time in your life. Would you mind if I recorded some of our conversations? Family History Project. Capturing stories, advice, memories. Something you and Ariana can look back on years from now. Malik, touched by the sentimental notion, agreed enthusiastically. That's really thoughtful, Dad. Ariana will love that. I purchased a professional recording device the next day. Discrete model used by journalists, voice-activated, 8-hour capacity. Tested it thoroughly. Audio quality was excellent. State law permitted recording conversations where one party consented. I wasn't breaking any laws, just building an evidence foundation. I created an encrypted folder on my computer labeled Family Archive 2025, then began a meticulous documentation system. Date, time, participants, key statements, potential legal relevance. Saturday arrived. I activated the recording device in my shirt pocket before Malik and Ariana arrived for brunch. She entered with practiced warmth, kissed my cheek, brought expensive bakery pastries, complimented recent garden work. Over coffee, the conversation flowed naturally toward estate planning. Ariana initiated smoothly. Harold, Malik mentioned you haven't updated your will since his mother passed. That's 8 years. Estate law changes. Tax implications shift. Have you considered reviewing it? I played my role perfectly, slightly confused, appreciative of her concern. I suppose I should. Never been good with legal paperwork. You understand these matters. She leaned forward, eager. I work with attorneys regularly through real estate transactions. I'd be happy to recommend someone. Or we could discuss his family. Understanding everyone's situation helps with long-term planning. Family planning. I repeated carefully. You mean after you and Malik marry? Exactly. Combined household finances, shared resources, coordinated investments. Modern families operate as economic units. Malik chimed in, oblivious. Makes sense, Dad. Ariana has a business degree. She's better at financial strategy than either of us. I nodded slowly, playing elderly confusion. So, you're suggesting what exactly? Ariana's smile sharpened microscopically. Just transparency. Understanding what assets exist, how they're structured, what succession plans are. Prevents family conflicts later. I noted how quickly later entered her vocabulary. She was already planning my death. I'll think about it, I said mildly. After they left, I immediately uploaded the recording, timestamped key moments. Her language revealed everything. Combined household, shared resources, succession plans. She wasn't planning marriage. She was planning acquisition. Over the following 2 weeks, Ariana increased contact frequency. She called me directly, ostensibly asking opinions about wedding details, venue selection, catering choices, guest list. But conversations always drifted toward my property. This house is so large. Have you considered downsizing? Malik and I could buy it from you at a fair price. You could move somewhere more manageable. Another time. Life insurance policies. Do you have adequate coverage? Malik should be beneficiary, obviously. But have you structured it properly? Each probe grew more blatant. I recorded everything, maintained my naive persona. You're so thoughtful to help with these things. I never know what I'm doing. Internally, I cataloged her tactics with clinical precision. She was accelerating the timeline, trying to secure legal hooks before the wedding. Why the rush? Rhodes' surveillance showed Andre pressing her. Their relationship strained by her extended investment in Malik. She was managing 2 men simultaneously, and the pressure was mounting. She was making mistakes, getting sloppy. Perfect. Late that second week, I transformed the spare bedroom into a command center. Purchased a large corkboard, colored pins, index cards, string. At its center, Ariana's photograph from the engagement announcement. Left side, timeline of her relationship with Malik. Right side, previous marriages with James Whitfield and Richard Brennan. Top, financial motivations, property targets. Bottom, legal strategy options. Colored strings connected related elements. This visual architecture helped me see the entire pattern simultaneously, identify gaps in evidence, plan next moves. I photographed the board daily, tracking the evolution of the case. One evening, reviewing the latest recording of Ariana probing about my investment portfolio, I sat in that command center and let myself feel the cold fury I'd been suppressing. She actually said, "You're 68. Like she was calculating years until inheritance. Most people avoided discussing a parent's mortality. She led with it, and Malik just nodded along, thinking she was being practical. He couldn't hear what I heard, the assessment, the calculation, the timeline. She wasn't planning a wedding. She was planning an acquisition schedule. Not while I was breathing. 3 more weeks of careful performance. 3 more weeks of recorded conversations where Ariana probed estate planning, suggested property consolidations, calculated my mortality like an actuarial table. Each recording added to the growing file. Each interaction strengthened the legal case Denise Carter was helping me build. Then Rhodes called. Found James Whitfield, lives in Northport, works as a tech consultant. Divorced Ariana 3 years ago. I mentioned the investigation regarding her current engagement. He paused. He got very quiet, then asked if the new victim had children. When I said grown son, he said, "Tell the father I'll talk to him." Not to an investigator, to the father directly. So I was driving to Northport on a Thursday morning in June. Highway 7 stretched north through familiar landscape, evergreens, exits I'd taken during business trips decades ago. Beside me on the passenger seat, a folder containing Rhodes's report, photographs of Ariana with Andre, documented timeline of her manipulation, evidence to share, credibility to establish. The cafe James chose was in Maple Ridge, a quiet neighborhood spot with good coffee and corner booths. I arrived 30 minutes early, selected a table with clear sight lines to the entrance, positioned myself to observe. James Whitfield entered at the appointed time. Average height, professionally dressed in business casual, carrying visible caution in his body language. I recognized him from the photograph Rhodes had provided. Stood, extended my hand. "Mr. Whitfield, I'm Harold Gaines. Thank you for agreeing to meet." He shook my hand, assessed me carefully before sitting. "Your investigator said she's engaged to your son." "How old?" 37. James winced visibly. "Perfect age. Old enough to have assets. Young enough to rebuild a career. I was 39 when I met her." I ordered coffee for both of us. Didn't rush into interrogation. Instead asked, "How are you now, 3 years later?" James appreciated the question. "Better. Rebuilt my consulting practice, though I lost a key client in the divorce settlement." She positioned herself on paper as a business partner despite never working a day in her life. Financial recovery took 2 years. Emotional recovery is ongoing. His honesty broke the ice. I responded, "I'm trying to prevent my son from experiencing what you experienced. That's why I'm here. Not just for legal ammunition, though I need that, but to understand what I'm actually fighting." James nodded slowly. "You're fighting a professional. She's not a casual con artist. She studied this, perfected it, made it a career." Over the next hour, James described the entire relationship arc. Met Ariana at a networking event where she positioned herself strategically near successful attendees. She did research, knew his company name, asked intelligent questions about cloud infrastructure, seemed genuinely interested in his work, not just his income. At least that's what he thought. The courtship was intense. She matched his interests perfectly, introduced him to expensive restaurants. After 4 months, she suggested engagement. Said, "When you know, you know." He was flattered. Previous relationships had been cautious, distant. Her certainty felt like validation. The prenuptial contract came with explanation. She'd been hurt before, needed legal clarity, wanted to protect both of them. The contract looked balanced, equal division of assets acquired during marriage. He didn't understand the clause language. Family assets acquired during marriage actually meant anything either of them inherited or received from relatives became marital property. His father died 8 months into the marriage, left him $150,000 and a vintage car collection. According to the prenup, that became a marital asset. The marriage lasted 18 months. She changed after the wedding, distant, critical, increasingly demanding. Started an affair with a real estate investor. He found hotel receipts. When he confronted her, she filed for divorce immediately. Her attorney was aggressive. His was outmatched. Settlement cost him $180,000, the car collection, and a 30% stake in his business. James's voice stayed level, but his hand shook slightly, holding the coffee cup. She knew the timing, waited until the inheritance cleared, then pulled the trigger. The whole thing was planned from the beginning. I shared my own folder. Rhodes's investigation, recorded conversations with Ariana, timeline of manipulation. James reviewed the materials with growing recognition. Same pattern. Exactly. Look at this line, family resource consolidation. She used those exact words with me. It's scripted. He examined the photograph of Ariana with Andre Vail. Different man, same dynamic. She always has a backup plan. Someone to fall back on when the mark is exhausted. I asked directly, would you be willing to provide a written statement, testify if necessary, to void her prenuptial contract with my son? James didn't hesitate. Yes, I should have spoken up sooner. If I'd warned the next man, maybe he'd have been spared. You're warning me now, I said gently. That's what matters. We drafted the statement together on his laptop. Detailed timeline, specific manipulation tactics, financial outcome, pattern recognition. James signed it, provided contact information. Call me anytime. Whatever you need. She shouldn't be allowed to keep doing this. As our meeting concluded, James offered final insight. Your son won't believe you at first. I wouldn't have believed anyone trying to warn me. She's that good at creating an alternative reality. She'll have an explanation for everything. The other man is a business associate. Previous marriages ended amicably. Your suspicions are overprotective paranoia. I acknowledge this fear. It's already happening. He's been distant, canceling our weekly dinners, making excuses. She's orchestrating it. James nodded grimly. Textbook strategy. Separate the target from the support system, especially skeptics. Timing is crucial. You need overwhelming evidence presented at a moment he can't dismiss it. Not gradual revelation, single devastating confrontation with irrefutable proof. I'm building toward that, I said. When I show him, it'll be the complete picture, not a fragment he can rationalize away. James stood, shook my hand firmly. Save your son. I wish someone had saved me. I drove back to Rosebridge with James's signed statement, secured in the folder beside me. I felt a shift in momentum. The pattern now had human testimony. The abstract had become concrete. But as I crossed back into the city, my phone buzzed with a text from Malik. Dad, sorry to cancel Sunday dinner again. Wedding planning is crazy busy. Ariana says we need to finalize the venue this weekend. Rain check. It was the third cancellation in 4 weeks. I recognized the strategy James had warned about. Isolation by increments. Each excuse reasonable. The cumulative effect, separating the target from protection. I responded simply, Of course, son. Let me know when you're free. But driving through late afternoon traffic, I calculated the wedding was 10 weeks away. Ariana was accelerating her timeline, consolidating control over Malik. My evidence gathering was thorough but time-consuming. The question became, could I build a complete case before the wedding locked Malik into a legal trap? It was a mathematical problem, an architect's challenge, and the answer needed to be yes. James Whitfield's signed statement joined the growing evidence file. I added it to the command center board, connecting his testimony to Ariana's current manipulation tactics with red string. The pattern was undeniable now, a professional operation refined over multiple victims. But collecting evidence and reaching my son were two different challenges. The Sunday after the Northport trip, Malik called. Dad, can we reschedule dinner? Ariana needs help choosing between venues. I agreed. The following Sunday, photographer meeting ran late. The third Sunday, sorry Dad, wedding planning is overwhelming. We'll catch up soon. 3 consecutive cancellations. Our tradition, dinners that had persisted even during his years away at university, now quietly dismantled. Ariana was executing exactly what James had warned about. Isolation by increments. By mid-July, I understood she sensed something. My performance had slipped somehow, or her instincts detected danger. Either way, she was moving to neutralize me. Wednesday evening, I was preparing dinner when the phone rang. Malik's voice carried unfamiliar tension. Dad, we need to talk. Ariana thinks. I've been thinking about our relationship. Warning bells went off immediately. I kept my tone neutral. What about it? You've been distant lately. When we visit, you ask strange questions. Ariana noticed you recording conversations. She thinks it's because you don't trust her. My mind raced. How did she know about the recordings? Did Malik tell her about the family history project? Son, those recordings are for preserving family memories. Like I explained. That's what you said. But why do you need to record everything? It feels like surveillance, like you're looking for problems that don't exist. The phrasing, looking for problems that don't exist, that was pure Ariana. Her language, her manipulation. Malik continued. Ariana thinks maybe you're having trouble letting me go. She says parents sometimes sabotage their kids' relationships because they fear abandonment. Textbook psychological warfare. Reframe protective concern as selfish control. I responded carefully. I support your happiness, Malik. Always have. Then why does Ariana feel unwelcome? Why do you interrogate her about finances and estate planning? I don't interrogate. I respond to the conversation she starts. She says you twist things, make innocent questions seem suspicious. The conversation spiraled. Malik grew defensive. I remained measured, but I could feel my son slipping further away with every word. The call ended with Malik saying, "Maybe we should take a break from dinners until after the wedding. Give everyone space to breathe." I agreed. What choice did I have? But I recognized it as Ariana's victory. Isolation complete. The following morning, I met Denise Carter at her office, explained the deteriorating relationship with Malik, Ariana's counterattack. She listened with professional sympathy. "This is expected," she said calmly. "She's protecting her investment. Your son is an asset she's cultivated. She won't let you interfere without a fight." "Can I approach him now? Show him the evidence?" Carter shook her head firmly. "Partial revelation is dangerous. You show him the investigation, she'll explain it away. You show him the previous marriages, she'll say, 'I was young, I made mistakes.' You show him the photographs, she'll claim business meetings. Every piece of evidence you reveal prematurely becomes inoculation. She builds antibodies against the truth. So I do nothing while she turns him against me?" "You continue building the case," Carter said. "We need overwhelming proof presented at a moment she cannot spin it. The wedding day itself might be ideal, public setting, emotional stakes high, her guard lowered by perceived victory." I considered this grimly. "You're suggesting I let the wedding proceed to the brink of disaster." "I'm suggesting you strike when the target is most vulnerable. Ariana expects opposition before the wedding. She's defending against that. She won't expect opposition at the wedding." That afternoon, Rhodes called. She met Andre again. Downtown Harbor Inn, room 812. Spent 3 hours there yesterday. Couldn't get inside, obviously, but I planted an audio device in the hallway near the door. Not admissible in court, but it gives us intelligence. He emailed me the encrypted file. I downloaded it immediately and listened through noise-canceling headphones. Hotel corridor sounds, faint footsteps, elevator chime, a door opening, Ariana's laugh, then Andre's lower voice. Door closing, muffled conversation through thin insulation. The quality was poor, but the words emerged clear enough. 10 more weeks of this charade," Ariana said, laughing softly. "Malik's so easy to read." Andre replied, "And the father?" "Handled. I've isolated the son completely. The old man can suspect whatever he wants. Malik won't believe him now." Ice clinking in glasses. Movement. "Andre, you said that about Whitfield's brother. He nearly blew your cover." "Ariana, this is different. Malik's more malleable. No close family except his father, and I've poisoned that relationship. After the wedding, the prenup activates. 18 months of playing devoted wife. I've done longer." Andre chuckled. 18 months, then cash out. Her reply chilled me. He actually believes I love him. Their laughter followed. I stopped the recording, my hand shaking slightly on the desk. I'd heard her voice before, polite, measured, confident. But this was different. Cold. Predatory. I sat there for several minutes, absorbing the reality of what I'd just heard. This wasn't romance. It was premeditated fraud. An engineered con with my son as the next victim. The following Sunday, patience failed me. I violated my own strategy. Drove to Malik's apartment unannounced, hoping to catch him alone. He answered the door, surprise flashing into irritation. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Wanted to see you. We've barely talked in weeks." He didn't invite me in. We talked in the doorway, awkward and stilted. I tried an indirect approach. "Son, have you had an independent attorney review the prenuptial contract?" "Why would I need that? Ariana's attorney drafted it fairly. Standard practice to have separate legal counsel." "Dad, stop. This is exactly what Ariana warned me about. You're trying to undermine our relationship." "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection. I'm 37 years old, capable of making my own decisions." I saw Ariana's purse on the entry table. Realized she was inside, listening, probably coaching this entire exchange. "Rough, Malik, please, just listen." "No, you listen. If you can't support this marriage, maybe you shouldn't attend the wedding. Think about that. He closed the door. I stood there in the hallway, feeling the cold sting of defeat. Driving home, I understood what Denise had meant. Premature confrontation fails. Partial evidence only strengthens the liar's hold. Back home, I updated the case board with fresh notes. Isolation complete. Counterattack successful. Then I created a new section, counter-strategy, wedding day confrontation. I documented every shift. Each canceled dinner, Malik's defensive language, Ariana's escalating control. Added the transcript from the hotel recording, photographs, dates. The board was now a mosaic of deception. Her 3 marriages, her affair with Andre, financial settlements, manipulative dialogue, and my son's gradual alienation. Any objective observer would see it for what it was, a structural map of fraud. But my son wasn't objective. He was the structure's inhabitant, blind to its cracks. I stood before that board for hours, the architect in me analyzing the framework. Every lie was a beam, every manipulation a joint. The foundation, my son's trust, was compromised. Timing was the critical variable now. Strike too soon. The structure collapses before proof can hold. Wait too long, and it's legally sealed in stone. The wedding date, August 16th, 8 weeks away. I made my decision that night. Let Ariana think she'd won. Let her believe she'd buried me in isolation and doubt. I would play the defeated father, compliant and weary. I would lower her guard completely. Then, at the wedding, when she was most confident, most triumphant, I would expose everything. No warning, no mercy, only truth. Late July became early August. Weeks of silence for Malik. No calls, no texts, complete radio silence. I maintained the strategic withdrawal, resisting every paternal instinct to reach out. Let Ariana believe she had won. Let her feel secure enough to drop her guard. Meanwhile, the work continued. Rhodes submitted his final surveillance reports. Ariana and Andre met 4 times in 10 days as the wedding approached. Hotel rooms, high-end restaurants, extended afternoons at his waterfront condo. Each meeting documented, photographed, time-stamped. The pattern was clear. They were planning their post-wedding phase, confident in their scheme. Denise Carter organized the evidence into a structured presentation: victim testimony, financial documentation, surveillance photos, recorded conversations, prenuptial analysis. This would convince any judge, she said. But your audience isn't a court. It's your son. Arrange materials for emotional impact, not just legal strength. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was ready. Then the phone rang. It was Wednesday evening, August 6th. I was in the command center, sorting the final evidence packets, when Malik's name appeared on the screen. The first call in 3 weeks. "Dad," he said, his voice uncertain, almost sheepish. "Hi, son." Silence stretched between us. "The wedding's next Saturday," he said finally. "I know we've had some distance lately, but you're still my father. I want you there." I chose my words carefully. "Does Ariana want me there?" He hesitated. "She thinks maybe it's not a good idea, but it's my wedding too. I'm inviting you." "I appreciate that," I said softly. "Really? I thought maybe you'd." "I support your happiness, Malik. Always have." More silence. I sensed he wanted to say more but couldn't. Finally, he said, "Ceremonies at 3. Rosebridge Country Club. Reception right after. You don't have to stay long if it's awkward." "I'll stay as long as appropriate," I replied. "But I need to tell you something important at the wedding. Will you give me a few minutes of your time, before or after the ceremony? Your choice." He sounded cautious. "Important like what?" "Information you need to have about your future, your marriage." His defensive tone returned. "If this is more criticism of Ariana, it's information." I interrupted. "What you do with it is your choice. Just promise you'll listen." Reluctantly, he said, "Fine. After the ceremony. 10 minutes, okay? That's all I ask." The call ended. I sat motionless for a long while. Malik reaching out, despite Ariana's objections, meant her control wasn't absolute. Some part of him still valued our bond. That made what I had to do both easier and infinitely harder. The first week of August, I transformed months of research into a strategic presentation. I created 3 identical evidence packets, one for Malik, one for Denise as legal backup, and one for myself. Each packet was meticulously organized, color-coded, and labeled. Section 1. Background: James Whitfield's written testimony. Financial records from both prior divorces. Pattern analysis. Section 2. Current deception. Rhodes' surveillance photographs of Ariana with Andre Vail spanning 3 months. Hotel records. Timeline showing meetings throughout Malik's engagement. Section 3. Manipulation evidence. Transcripts of recorded conversations, highlighting financial probing, estate planning pressure, and isolation tactics. Section 4. The smoking gun. Transcript of the hotel hallway recording where Ariana and Andre discussed timelines, inheritance, and her open acknowledgement of fraud. Section 5. Legal analysis. Carter's assessment of the prenuptial contract, indicators of fraudulent intent, and legal grounds for annulment. Each section was tabbed and highlighted for quick reference. The presentation flowed logically, from suspicion to discovery, from pattern to proof. It was a masterwork of clarity and precision, like a well-drafted architectural blueprint. I sealed the packets in black leather folders labeled simply, "The Truth About Ariana Cole." 2 copies went into my home safe. 1 stayed in my jacket pocket. I also created a digital backup on an encrypted USB drive, locked with a passphrase only I knew. On August 8th, I met with Denise Carter for what we both knew was the final strategy session before the confrontation. She reviewed the materials, nodded approvingly, then leaned forward. "Harold, the evidence is devastating, but a wedding day confrontation is volatile. He'll be emotionally raw. You need to deliver everything clearly, calmly, and fast. 10 minutes, max." "I can handle that," I said. "Good, because Ariana will try to seize control of the narrative the moment she realizes what's happening. You need to overwhelm her before she can recover." I nodded. "What about after?" "After? When I show him, when it all collapses, where does he go?" "She'll try to isolate him again immediately." Carter thought for a moment. "You need an extraction plan. He'll need space away from her to process the truth. Insist he come with you. Have a bag ready for him, clothes, essentials. Show him you're prepared to help him recover, not just expose her." I hadn't considered that, but she was right. "My house," I said. "He'll come home with me." "Good. Make sure he feels safe there. He'll be fragile, humiliated, angry, grieving. Let him break before he rebuilds." 4 days before the wedding, Rhodes delivered his concluding report. The final photos showed Ariana and Andre having dinner at an upscale waterfront restaurant 3 nights earlier. Their conversation looked heated. "She's nervous," Rhodes said. "My guess? Pressure from the timeline. They're finalizing post-wedding plans." He also handed me a slim folder of financial intelligence, pulled through a source. "Andre's been footing the bills, hotel rooms, gifts, jewelry. He's invested deep. Might think he's part of the long game, but she's already setting him up for the same trick." "So he's another mark?" Rhodes shrugged. "Maybe. Maybe he knows exactly what she is. Either way, he's complicit." He extended his hand. "Good luck, Mr. Gaines. This has been the most satisfying case I've ever worked, stopping a predator before she completes the cycle." That night, I barely slept. The next day, Malik called again, confirming the logistics one more time. He sounded calmer, almost childlike. "Just wanted to make sure you're coming, Dad." "I'll be there," I said. "Okay. Thanks, Dad." After the call ended, I sat for a long time staring at the silent phone. I felt the weight of everything. The deception, the evidence, the months of pretending. That night, I wrote a letter. Sealed it in an envelope marked to Malik, only if everything fails. Inside, I explained the investigation, my motives, the proof, and my love for him. I included instructions to contact Denise if something happened to me, or if Ariana somehow regained control. Then I placed the letter in my safety deposit box, the backup plan no father should ever need. August 15th, Friday night, the eve of the confrontation. I prepared methodically, laid out my formal suit, dark charcoal, white shirt, conservative tie, checked the evidence folder one last time, tested the recorder's battery and memory, ate a light dinner. No alcohol, no distractions. Then I sat in the command center one final time, staring at the board that had consumed my summer. Months of surveillance photos, printed texts, legal documents, and red string connections mapped across every inch of cork. I took a final photograph of the board, preserving it as a record of what this ordeal had cost and what it had revealed. Then, systematically, I dismantled it, removed the pins, unstrung the lines, filed every document in labeled folders. The room returned to its former identity, a guest bedroom, but in my mind, the architecture of the truth remained standing. That night, I lay in darkness, mind rehearsing the confrontation again and again. Every word, every possible reaction. Best case, Malik sees the truth, leaves with me immediately, and the legal cleanup begins. Worst case, he believes Ariana's spin, walks away, and I lose him entirely. Most likely, shock, denial, anger, then realization. As dawn approached, I finally drifted into restless sleep, dreaming of collapsing buildings, of structures whose foundations had failed. When I woke, the clock read 6 a.m. Wedding day had arrived. Morning light streamed through the blinds as I stood before the mirror and adjusted my tie. My reflection looked calm, older, yes, but composed. A man ready to deliver the truth, no matter the cost. I slipped the folder labeled "The Truth About Ariana Cole" into my jacket's inner pocket. The weight was barely noticeable, yet it felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. I checked the recorder once more, fully charged, voice activation enabled, and whispered to my reflection. Time to build one last structure, one that saves my son. Wedding morning arrived with gray Rosebridge skies, threatening rain that never came. I dressed slowly, deliberately, the kind of methodical rhythm I developed over decades of drafting plans, where every line mattered. Charcoal suit, pressed white shirt, conservative tie. The evidence folder slipped into my jacket's inner pocket, barely noticeable in weight, but its presence pulsed like a heartbeat. The digital recorder sat in the breast pocket, voice activation on, battery full. I wasn't taking chances. I arrived at Rosebridge Country Club 90 minutes before the ceremony. I wanted time to observe, to understand the layout, identify exits, locate private spaces where I could speak to Malik after the ceremony. The club overlooked a stretch of rolling hills and manicured lawns, its white facade and terracotta roof gleaming with quiet wealth. Inside, organized chaos reigned, florists fussing over centerpieces, caterers wheeling silver trays, a photographer testing lighting angles. I walked through the hall like an inspector visiting a building before opening day, calm, detached, observant. I found the ideal space for the confrontation, a side library near the ballroom, doors that closed solidly, large windows providing light, a polished table suitable for laying out documents. I tested the acoustics with a quiet clap, contained, private. Perfect. Then I returned to the main hall. Guests had begun to arrive in waves, laughter and perfume filling the air. Ariana's side filled quickly, men in tailored suits, women in couture dresses, expensive watches glinting under the chandeliers. Strangers, all of them. I recognized only two of Malik's friends from college, seated uncomfortably near the back. The rest of our family, few in number, sat scattered. The isolation she'd engineered was visible, physical, undeniable. The processional music began. Heads turned. Ariana appeared at the top of the aisle, radiant in an elaborate white gown that likely cost more than Malik's car. Her smile was perfectly measured, her every movement deliberate, practiced. She looked every inch the devoted bride, and every inch the con artist. I activated the recorder in my pocket with a subtle tap. The ceremony itself was short, efficient, rehearsed. Vows spoken, rings exchanged. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Applause rose like a wave. The couple kissed. I watched my son, my only child, seal himself inside a trap, unaware that I held the key to unlock it. The reception followed immediately in the grand ballroom. Waiters glided between tables, champagne flowing freely. I declined alcohol. I needed my mind sharp. Ariana was radiant, her laughter like glass, delicate and hollow. She moved through the crowd as if choreographed, one hand always on Malik's arm, intercepting anyone who tried to speak with him privately. Control. Always control. I stayed near the back, quietly observing. From there, I could see the DJ booth, the seating arrangement, the exits, and the hallway leading to the library. I memorized the layout again, visualizing the movement, how quickly I could get Malik from the head table to that room before Ariana intervened. Timing was everything. Dinner began. I was assigned to table 8, far from the head table where Malik and Ariana sat elevated, surrounded by a glittering circle of associates. It was a deliberate slight, undoubtedly orchestrated by her. I didn't mind. The distance gave me perspective. Throughout dinner, I studied her. She was flawless, poised, confident. Every smile perfectly weighted, every gesture calculated. It was her stage, and she believed she'd already won. Perfect. Dessert came. The DJ announced that speeches would begin soon. First the bride's parents, then the groom's father. I felt my pulse steady. Before the toasts, Ariana excused herself from the head table. She moved gracefully toward me, her dress whispering across the floor. When she reached my table, she leaned close, her perfume sharp, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "Harold," she said, her tone syrup-sweet, "I just wanted to thank you. You raised a wonderful son. Your job is complete now." I said nothing, watching her eyes. "This is my family now," she continued, still smiling. "Malik and I talked about it. We need space to build our marriage without interference. So after tonight, you should probably give us that space. You've been here for the ceremony. That's enough." "Malik asked me to stay for the toasts," I replied calmly. "Malik asks for many things when he's being sentimental," she said, her voice tightening just slightly. "But I'm telling you what's best for him." Her smile flickered, revealing the steel beneath. "Frankly, you don't fit here. You don't fit with our friends, our lifestyle, or our future. Go home, Harold. Don't come back." She straightened, smoothing her dress, waiting for me to react, to be hurt, defensive, humiliated. Instead, I smiled faintly. "All right," I said quietly, "but I'm not leaving alone." Her expression faltered. "What does that mean?" "You'll see," I replied evenly. "Enjoy your reception, Ariana. What's left of it?" Her eyes narrowed, confusion edging into unease. She turned sharply and walked away. But I saw it, the first crack in her composure. I rose from my seat and made my way toward the DJ booth. The bride's parents had just finished their cheerful, shallow speech. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Then the DJ gestured to me. "Next, we'll hear from the groom's father, Mr. Harold Gaines." I accepted the microphone and stepped forward. 200 faces turned toward me. The air in the room shifted, anticipation, curiosity. Malik smiled nervously at the head table. Ariana's smile was brittle. "Thank you all for being here," I began, voice steady. Traditionally, this is the part where the father of the groom offers blessings, shares stories, raises a toast to the new couple. A few guests chuckled softly. I paused. "I'm not going to do that." The laughter died instantly. What I have to say is more important than tradition. I turned to my son. "Malik, I need to speak with you. Privately. Right now." The room went silent. Forks stopped midair. Malik frowned. "Dad, what are you?" "Son," I said firmly. "I need 10 minutes of your time. Just you and me. It cannot wait." Ariana stood abruptly, her voice rising. "Harold, please. This is neither the time nor the place." "No," I said, keeping my tone measured. "It's exactly the time and place." Gasps fluttered through the guests. Malik half stood, torn between us. "Dad, please, what's going on?" I met his eyes. "I'll explain everything, but it must be in private." Ariana hissed something to him, but I couldn't hear. He hesitated, then straightened fully. 10 minutes, Dad," he said tightly. "Then you're explaining this." He started down the steps from the head table. Ariana followed instantly, panic creeping into her movements. "Just Malik," I said sharply. "This conversation is between father and son." "He's my husband now," she snapped. "I have a right to be there." "You have no rights to this conversation," I replied. "Not this one." Malik looked from her to me, confusion warring with irritation. "The library," I said quietly. Down that hall. He nodded once and walked ahead. I followed, feeling every gaze in the room on my back. Behind us, Ariana called out, her voice trembling with forced calm. "Malik, don't let him manipulate you. Whatever he's about to say." The rest was drowned in whispers and murmurs as we stepped into the hallway. The corridor was quiet. At the end, I opened the library door, gestured for him to enter. He did. I closed the door behind us, shutting out the noise of the reception. Silence settled, heavy, expectant. Malik stood near the bookshelf, arms crossed, face flushed. 10 minutes, he said tersely. "You've destroyed my wedding reception for this. Show me whatever you think justifies it." I reached into my jacket and placed a folder on the polished mahogany table between us. It was thick, months of investigation compressed into one decisive object. My hands were steady. "Before I open this," I said quietly, "you need to understand, everything inside was obtained legally. Nothing fabricated, nothing manipulated. Independent verification exists for every document, every recording." "Why are you talking like a lawyer?" Malik snapped. "Just show me." I flipped open the folder. "This is testimony from James Whitfield." He frowned. "Who?" "Ariana's first husband." He blinked, confusion freezing him. "She told me she's never been married." "She lied." I slid the notarized document across the table. "Read." He hesitated, then took it. As he scanned the pages, the color drained from his face. "This could be fake," he muttered weakly. "Anyone could write this." James signed it. "He's willing to testify under oath. Call him right now if you don't believe me." I pushed my phone toward him. He stared at it but didn't touch it. "There's more," I said. "Her second husband, Richard Brennan. Same pattern, same ending. She's done this before twice. You're the third target." "No," his voice cracked. "She would have told me." "Why would she? That truth destroys the illusion she's built." I opened the second section. Photographs spilled across the table. Ariana and Andre Vale, laughing over wine, holding hands outside hotels, kissing in parking lots. Each time stamped, each dated within the months of her engagement to Malik. "Who is that?" he whispered. "His name is Andre Vale. Real estate agent. She's been seeing him for at least 8 months, longer than she's known you." Malik's hand trembled as he lifted one of the photos. "You hired someone to follow her." "After I saw her with him myself," I said evenly. "Would you have believed me without proof?" "This doesn't mean. Maybe it ended before we got serious." "It didn't." I pointed to one photo, timestamped just 3 days before the wedding. "She was with him this week." He stared at the picture as if it might rewrite itself. "This isn't possible," he murmured. I took a slow breath. "There's one more thing you need to hear." And I reached for the final recording, the one that would shatter the illusion completely. I reached into my inner pocket and withdrew a small black recorder, the same one that had documented every manipulation, every conversation. I set it gently on the table between us. Malik's eyes flicked toward it, suspicious, wary. "What's that?" he asked. "The truth," I said quietly, recorded in her own voice. He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Dad, if this is some invasion of privacy..." "It's the truth," I repeated, pressing play. The library filled with faint static, then the soft chime of an elevator, muffled footsteps, and a woman's laughter. Ariana's laughter. Malik froze. Through the poor hotel corridor acoustics, her voice emerged, unmistakable, smooth and confident. 10 more weeks of this charade. Malik so easy to read. Then another voice, male, steady, amused. "Andre Vale. And the father?" "Handled," Ariana replied. "I've isolated the son completely. The old man can suspect whatever he wants. Malik won't believe him now." A pause. Ice clinking in a glass. "You said that about Whitfield's brother," Andre teased. "This is different," Ariana said. "Malik's more malleable. No close family except his father, and I've poisoned that relationship. After the wedding, the prenup activates. 18 months of playing devoted wife. I've done longer." There was laughter, hers, sharp and unrestrained. 18 months, then cash out. He actually believes I love him, she finished, her voice cold and cruel. The recording ended. The silence that followed was absolute. Malik didn't move. He stood completely still, staring at the recorder as if it were some cursed object. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded foreign, distant. That could be doctored. I said nothing. It could be fake. Anyone could, you could have. He stopped mid-sentence, unable to finish. Would you like to hear it again? I asked softly. No, his voice cracked. No, He stumbled back a step, pressing a hand to his forehead. This can't she loves me. She doesn't love anyone, I said gently. She studies people, finds their weaknesses, builds relationships like blueprints, with structural points of failure already designed. He shook his head violently. No, you don't know her like I do. I know her better than you think, I said quietly, because I've seen her without the mask. Malik backed away from the table, his breath uneven. You've been spying on her, manipulating this whole thing. You wanted to destroy her because you couldn't control me. There it was, Ariana's poison speaking through him. I didn't react, didn't argue. Emotion would only fortify his denial. Sit down, I said calmly. Stop ordering me around. Then don't sit. Just look at the evidence, Malik. Read her history. Look at the signatures. Listen to her words. This isn't about control, it's about survival. Yours. He stared at the table, the documents, the photographs, the recorder. Physical manifestations of betrayal. He reached out, hesitated, then grabbed one of the photographs. Ariana and Andre at the harbor, wine glasses raised, faces inches apart. His lips trembled. She told me she hated red wine, he whispered. The small detail, that stupid, meaningless contradiction, broke something inside him. His knees gave slightly, and he sank into the chair. I stayed silent. Let the truth settle in. Truth doesn't need persuasion. It corrodes illusion naturally. Minutes passed. Malik sat motionless, eyes fixed on the photographs, mind somewhere between rage and disbelief. Finally, he spoke, barely audible. She said you'd do this, that you'd twist things to make her look bad, that you couldn't stand not being the most important person in my life. I nodded slowly. Of course she said that. It's what she always says. It's how she wins. Divide, isolate, control. It's the same pattern in every relationship she's had. He rubbed his face with both hands, muttering, God, what have I done? I moved around the table and sat opposite him, not touching, not intruding, just present. Listen to me, I said quietly. This isn't your fault. She's good at what she does. Too good. She picks people who lead with trust, who believe in decency. That's not weakness, Malik. That's who you are, who your mother was. He looked up sharply at that, eyes wet but alert. Mom, she trusted easily too. It's why she loved deeply, and why she got hurt sometimes. But she never let betrayal define her. You can't either. Malik's breathing steadied, just slightly. What do I do now? You walk out there and end it, I said, calmly, publicly, with witnesses. Don't give her space to twist the story. Then you come home with me. We'll contact Denise Carter tonight and have the prenuptial contract voided before she can claim assent. He swallowed hard. End it now. Yes, before she has time to regroup. He hesitated, torn between humiliation and fury. Everyone will see. It'll be messy? Yes, but less messy than a lifetime built on lies. He exhaled shakily, stood, and straightened his jacket. She'll deny it. She'll say you fabricated everything. She will, I said, but you've already heard her voice. You've already seen her with him. There's no denying what's in front of you. He looked down at the table one last time, at the evidence that had shattered his life, then closed the folder. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady when he said, Let's finish it. I nodded. I'll be right behind you. We left the library. As we stepped into the hallway, Ariana appeared at the far end, flanked by two of her glittering friends. Her face was taut, eyes bright with suspicion. What's going on? She demanded, her voice sharp. You've been gone too long. Everyone's waiting for the father-son drama to end. Malik walked toward her slowly. She smiled when he reached her, but the smile faltered when she saw his expression. Hollow, cold, unreadable. "Darling," she began, touching his arm. "I don't know what your father said, but—" He flinched away from her touch. "Don't." The word was quiet, but it cut through the corridor like a blade. Her eyes darted between us, calculating. "Malik, whatever he told you, it's a lie. He's trying to ruin this day for us. I heard you." Malik interrupted. She froze. "What?" "In that hotel with Andre Vale. I heard every word." The blood drained from her face. "That's insane. You're paranoid. He manipulated recordings. You know how he is." "No," Malik said quietly. "I know how you are." Her facade began to crumble. "You don't understand. I was scared. He threatened me. Stop." She fell silent. "Don't talk to me again," Malik said flatly. "Don't come near me. Don't contact me. You're finished." He turned away, heading toward the ballroom. Panic flared across Ariana's face. She reached out, grabbing his sleeve. "Malik, please." I stepped between them, calm but immovable. "Let go." Her hand dropped. She looked at me, eyes blazing with hatred. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "On the contrary," I said softly, "I know exactly who you are." We walked past her and re-entered the ballroom. The music had quieted. Guests turned to watch as Malik strode to the head table. Ariana followed a few steps behind, her mask of composure rapidly disintegrating. Malik picked up the microphone from the DJ stand. His voice shook at first, but grew stronger with each word. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make." The crowd hushed instantly. "This wedding is over." Gasps, murmurs, confusion. Ariana stopped in her tracks, her face pale. "Malik, don't do this," she whispered. He continued, his voice steady now. "The woman you know as Ariana Cole has lied about everything, her past, her intentions, even her fidelity. She's been married twice before. She's been having an affair for months. And she planned to leave me after taking half of everything I own." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Cameras flashed. Someone dropped a glass. Ariana's voice rose, desperate. "That's a lie. All lies." But Malik wasn't finished. "We have proof, photographs, documents, recordings. She's done this before. She'll do it again. But not to me." He dropped the microphone. The metallic clang echoed through the stunned silence. Ariana looked around wildly, realizing the room had turned against her. The whispers had begun, pitying, disgusted, incredulous. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Malik turned and walked toward the exit. I followed, pausing just long enough to meet Ariana's eyes one last time. Her expression was pure venom, hatred sharpened to a point. Then she spat. "You destroyed him." "No," I said quietly. "I saved him." And with that, we left the ballroom, the sound of chaos and disbelief fading behind us. Outside, the afternoon light had softened, clouds breaking into streaks of gold. Malik stopped on the steps, his shoulders shaking. I thought he might collapse, but instead he drew in a long, shuddering breath. "It's over," I said gently. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's over." But the tremor in his voice told me it wasn't, not really. The confrontation was done. The destruction was complete. Now came the harder part, rebuilding what she'd broken. We drove away from Rosebridge Country Club in silence. The sound of tires on wet asphalt filled the car like white noise. Malik sat in the passenger seat, still in his wedding suit, the boutonniere gone, his tie undone. His hands trembled in his lap. I didn't speak. He needed quiet, not words. When we reached my house, he got out slowly, like an old man whose bones had forgotten how to move. He walked inside without waiting for me, straight down the hall to the guest room, his old room. I heard the door close. For 3 hours, there was no sound. I waited in the living room, the evidence folder still on the coffee table like an artifact of war. The adrenaline that had fueled me through the confrontation began to fade, replaced by a hollow ache. I had saved my son, But saving someone from a lie is not the same as healing them from it. When Malik finally emerged, his eyes were swollen from crying, but his voice was steady. "Tell me what happens now," he said quietly. I nodded. "Legally." He nodded. "That night, I called Denise Carter. She arrived within the hour, efficient as ever. We spread the documents across the dining table. Malik listened in silence as she explained strategy. "We'll file immediately to void the prenuptial agreement on grounds of fraud," she said. "Given the evidence, the recordings, the prior marriages, the financial patterns, we have a solid case. Her best option will be to settle quietly, but people like her rarely do. Prepare for a fight." Malik nodded numbly. "I'll do whatever it takes." 5 days later, as predicted, Ariana struck back. A process server delivered papers to my doorstep. She was suing Malik for breach of contract and emotional distress, claiming $1 million in damages. Carter reviewed the documents, expression unreadable. "Perfect," she said. "It means she's panicking. The lawsuit puts her on the defensive, and it opens the door for us to file a counterclaim for fraud." A week later, we sat in Carter's downtown office, preparing for the hearing. Malik looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. His posture slumped. "Can she actually win this?" he asked. Carter shook her head. "No. The contract was obtained through deception, but proving that requires public testimony. We'll have to expose everything. Her history, her methods, the recordings. It'll be painful. She'll try to humiliate you. You'll have to stay calm and let the evidence speak." He nodded weakly. "If it means stopping her, I'll do it." The following days were filled with preparation. Carter ran practice sessions, playing the role of opposing counsel with merciless precision. "Mr. Gaines," she began sharply, "isn't it true that you willingly pursued this relationship?" "Yes," Malik said. "And that you proposed marriage of your own accord?" "Yes." "And that you signed the prenuptial agreement after reviewing its terms?" "Yes, but no, but." "You signed it. You consented. So why are we here? Because you regret your marriage? Because your father didn't approve?" Malik's jaw clenched. "No, because she lied about everything." Carter dropped the act. "Good. That's the line. Stay calm. Never argue emotion, argue evidence. She'll attack your credibility, your intelligence, your independence. Don't take the bait. The moment you react emotionally, she wins sympathy. Stay factual. Stay grounded." Malik nodded. I watched him carefully, seeing traces of the boy he'd been. Earnest, thoughtful, too trusting. He was learning the hard lesson of discernment. The hearing took place 2 weeks later in a small courtroom downtown. Wood-paneled walls, a raised judge's bench, and seating for maybe 30 people. The atmosphere was tense but clinical, the architecture of judgment. Ariana sat at the plaintiff's table, composed and elegant in a tailored navy suit. Her attorneys flanked her, whispering strategy. She didn't look at us. Malik sat beside Carter, expression blank. I sat behind them, silent support. Judge Elaine Morris presided, mid-50s, composed, eyes sharp behind rimless glasses. She reviewed the filings for several minutes, then looked up. "Let's begin." Carter stood first. "Your Honor, this case isn't about a failed marriage. It's about fraud, deliberate, repeated fraud. The plaintiff, Ms. Cole, has a documented history of targeting financially stable men, manipulating them into marriage, and profiting from divorce settlements. Mr. Gaines is her third known victim." Ariana's attorney immediately objected. "Irrelevant prior conduct, Your Honor." Judge Morris shook her head. "Pattern evidence is admissible when intent is in question. Proceed." Carter nodded. "Thank you, Your Honor." She turned to the witness stand. "The defense calls James Whitfield." James entered, neatly dressed, composed, holding himself with quiet dignity. He was sworn in and seated. "Mr. Whitfield," Carter began, "were you once married to the plaintiff, Ms. Ariana Cole?" "Yes." "For how long?" 18 months. "And how did that marriage end?" "Divorce," he said flatly. "She filed for it right after my father passed away. I just received an inheritance. She claimed half, citing the prenuptial clause about family assets. I lost close to $200,000. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Under cross-examination, Ariana's attorney tried to discredit him. Mr. Whitfield, isn't it true you've been bitter about this divorce for years? That you've spoken to Ms. Cole's subsequent partners out of revenge? No, James said firmly. I spoke to Mr. Gaines's father to warn him, because I recognized the pattern. That's not revenge. That's decency. Judge Morris's expression softened slightly. Continue, she said. Carter proceeded to the next exhibit, the recording. She played the segment from the hotel hallway. The courtroom fell silent as Ariana's voice filled the room. 10 more weeks of this charade. The old man can suspect whatever he wants. Malik won't believe him now. Her laughter echoed faintly through the speakers. The judge's eyes hardened. Ariana whispered something furiously to her attorney. Next, Carter called a forensic accountant, who testified about Ariana's financial history. In 2 previous divorces, Ms. Cole received over $400,000 combined in settlements, he said. Her declared annual income averages $45,000. Her lifestyle, however, suggests expenditures of at least 3 times that amount. The discrepancy is explained by divorce proceeds. Ariana's lawyer objected again. Circumstantial speculation. But Judge Morris waved him off. The evidence speaks for itself. When Malik took the stand, the courtroom was silent. He described how Ariana had isolated him from family, pressured him to sign the prenuptial agreement, and manipulated his emotions. His voice shook at times, but he never lost composure. When asked how he discovered the fraud, he simply said, "My father showed me the truth." Carter ended with a simple statement. Ms. Cole doesn't just marry men. She harvests them. Mr. Gaines was next in line. When it was over, the judge sat back, flipping through her notes. The silence stretched. Finally, she said, having reviewed the evidence, including recorded admissions, testimony from prior victims, and financial documentation, this court finds that the prenuptial agreement between Ms. Cole and Mr. Gaines was obtained through fraud and misrepresentation. The contract is void. The plaintiff's claims for breach and damages are dismissed with prejudice. Ariana's face went white. Judge Morris continued, her tone sharpening. Furthermore, the court refers this matter to the district attorney for investigation into potential criminal fraud. Ms. Cole, I suggest you retain a defense attorney. The gavel struck once. It was over. Outside the courthouse, the sun was blinding. Reporters waited, shouting questions, but Carter intercepted them, her professionalism impenetrable. Malik stood on the steps, looking dazed. "It's really over?" he asked quietly. "The civil part," I said. "The criminal part's just beginning. But for you, yes, it's over." He nodded slowly. "I still can't believe I didn't see it." "She built her life on making sure people don't," I said gently. "You see it now. That's what matters." Weeks passed. Malik stayed at my house, mostly quiet. The first week, he barely left his room. The second week, we started having small conversations, meals, music, memories. The third week, he apologized. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said one evening, "for doubting you, for believing her, for thinking you were trying to control me." I shook my head. "You don't owe me an apology, son. You trusted someone you loved. That's not a crime. She exploited that trust. That's on her." He smiled faintly. "Still, you built a case to save me. I'll never forget that." We resumed our Sunday dinners. Quiet at first, but steadier each week. He started therapy with a counselor who specialized in manipulation recovery. "She's helping me understand the tactics," he told me. "The love bombing, the isolation, the control. I see it all now." "Good," I said. "Awareness is armor." A month later, Carter called with updates. The district attorney had accepted Ariana's plea deal, 3 years probation, restitution, and a permanent mark on her record. Her consulting license revoked, reputation destroyed. Because of this case, Carter added, 2 more potential victims came forward. You and Malik didn't just protect yourselves. You stopped her. That evening, Malik and I stood on my back porch, watching the sun dip behind the city skyline. The air smelled of rain and cedar. "I've been thinking about trust," he said quietly. I trusted her completely, and it nearly ruined me. Now I don't know if I can trust anyone again. You will, I said, but you'll do it differently. Trust doesn't mean blindness. It means awareness. Verify before you believe. He nodded. Like architecture, he said, smiling faintly. A beautiful design doesn't mean the foundation's solid. You have to check the structure. Exactly, I said. You're an architect's son after all. He laughed softly, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in months. As the sun set, I realized something. I had spent months building a case to save him, but what I'd really done was rebuild the bridge between us. One truth, one conversation, one moment of trust at a time. Justice was done. My son was safe. And for the first time in years, I felt peace.